Hello and welcome to the Pick Six podcast. I'm Katie Mox here with Will Brinson. And as you know, this is our All 32 series, the series where we catch you up with insiders from every team and let you know the need to know information for each and every single one of those teams. Today, we're talking Kansas City Chiefs with beat writer for USA Today and ChiefsWire, Ed Easton Jr. Ed, thanks so much for joining us today. I know we talked about it a little bit on the pre-show, but have you been enjoying Quarterback on Netflix?
First of all, a pleasure to be here. Thank you guys for the invite. And yeah, definitely been enjoying it. A lot of stuff that we see a lot of times just covering the team is very interesting for now. Like the public, everyone to get a little insight of what's going on with Patrick and to see how intense he is and how much of a competitor he can be. So I thought that was something that I've seen a lot of responses from people that don't necessarily follow the Chiefs on a regular basis. They're saying, "Oh, Patrick Mahomes got that. He got a little dog in him."
Dog in him.
Yeah, but it's almost like with Mahomes, I think we treat him as sort of like this like magician who just otherworldly talented guy that he's just going out on Sundays. He's like just making it work. And like, we don't realize, and Katie pointed this out correctly. It's like, you got to be a psychopath, you got to be psychotic to be the best quarterback in football and like on track to we'll get to this maybe later, but actually I'll just bring it up now. Like to go after Tom Brady is like the greatest of all time. And that is a stupid thing to suggest because Tom Brady played for so long and won so many Super Bowls and had every year CBS rolls out a graphic that's like, which Hall of Fame career would you pick for Tom Brady? Because he has 3 of them. And yet Patrick Mahomes, 5 years into his career, 2 Super Bowls, I think 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
Yes.
2 MVPs. And the first guy since Kurt Warner in 1999 to win MVP of the regular season, Super Bowl MVP, and a Super Bowl in the same year. I mean, it's like covering that team, it's like, I don't know. It's like the whole thing is like, what can you tell me about Mahomes? But like, does that team believe that he is actually like he might be the greatest, like he could be the greatest of all time. Like it's not that crazy. And we're like 5 years into his career. There's just nothing he can't do.
Well, there's definitely a lot of confidence. The teammates all love him. Obviously, you see Travis Kelce's comments all the time. He recently spoke about that, saying that he wanted to see Mahomes get more titles even after he's done playing with him. So depending on how long Kelce wants to play. But just the whole length of the whole Tom Brady comparison, that's always going to happen. He's the greatest quarterback to play the game. Mahomes has shown that he can sort of like revolutionize the position and the way that people view it. So just from that dynamic, yes, that is the high expectation everyone's going to have for him when he's still in his 20s and he has already accomplished so much. But I think in terms of the franchise just wants to make sure he's healthy, he's happy, he's still out there, because just having Patrick Mahomes in the lineup automatically makes you a contender. They've hosted. That's the thing. They've hosted the AFC title game every season since the 2018 season.
Wild.
People seem that's something people seem to forget. Everything runs through Arrowhead since he's taken over as a starter.
We talked to beat writers in this All 32 series from every single team. And I got to say, you probably have the most fun job covering the Chiefs and the embarrassment of riches that they have. It must be a thrill compared to some teams that have to write about losing every single weekend. But let's talk about one of the departures on the team that you thought would be a really big red flag, and that's Orlando Brown. But the Chiefs just seem to be so good at replacing even their star offensive linemen. Like, how do these new pieces look on the O-line?
Well, it's interesting because after Orlando Brown moving on to Cincinnati, a lot of people said that might be
a rival.
Big hole, left tackle. The belief was that they didn't really want to give him that big contract, and that's really what it came down to. And they felt like they can mix and match and add veterans. So you add Taylor, you add Smith. Smith is he's been a veteran. He's played with the Bucs his whole career. He's played with Tom Brady. And, if they trust you to protect Tom Brady, that's a lot of trust. So these were things that they were looking at. If we're gonna replace Orlando Brown, a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, we want to bring in a guy that knows the pressure of protecting a franchise quarterback. So you bring in Smith, you bring in Taylor, you keep him on the right side. Everyone thought that they were going to move him to left tackle once he was brought in with the Chiefs, but the plan was to keep him where he's comfortable and just grow from there. So the offensive line has, in my opinion, it's improved so much. It doesn't get a lot of the praise that a lot of people kind of put on the a lot of the offensive players for obvious reasons. But you talk about Creed Humphreys, one of the better centers in the NFL, Pro Bowler as well, Joe Thuney, a great veteran, Trey Smith, who I feel like is one of the most underrated offensive linemen in the game. They have a nice unit that they've put together. So when they saw Orlando Brown as a free agent and they saw the price tag, they weren't too worried about replacing him because they knew what they had, and they also have some young talent that is waiting in the wings.
It's so interesting because it reminds me, and it shouldn't be surprising, but it reminds me a lot of the Patriots and what they did in New England, where you would have you have this team success. As a result, you have players who are going to get paid. But when you are winning Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowls in like a 5-year span, and you are Andy Reid, and like we talk about Mahomes catching Brady, I don't think Andy Reid's going to catch Belichick, but there's a little bit of like Phil Mickelson at a major here where Phil couldn't win one, finally won one, and then ripped off a bunch. And it's like Andy won his first Super Bowl, and now it's like it's like you mentioned, they're in Arrowhead every year. Pat is his guy. He's young. They got all these pieces. They trade Tyreek Hill. They let Orlando Brown walk. They don't panic at all. That's what I think is interesting. And even John Dorsey is gone, right? And then Brett Veach steps right in. It's amazing to me how Andy Reid in this second life as a coach, after all that success in Philly, has found even more success in Kansas City. I mean, as someone who covers him regularly, like he's an incredible person, a funny guy. But does it feel like that first Super Bowl maybe took some of that pressure off and just lets him like kind of coach a little more freely?
Oh, definitely. You could already see, and just the way he works with Mahomes and he works with Kelce. And we all know Andy Reid as an offensive genius and a mastermind, and some of the stuff that he's put together. He allows so much freedom for a guy like Mahomes and Kelce to just kind of figure things out, make up their own plays on the side outside of just a regular practice. So you see a lot of these creative plays, which they actually do show in the quarterback when they do the snow globe play. It's something that he's allowed a lot of freedom to do that. They actually done a couple of those interesting plays. Even in the Super Bowl, it's things like that Andy Reid has given his players, especially a guy like Mahomes, and just so much control in what they want to do. So when I think, Andy Reid, obviously his time with the Eagles and how successful he was, he kind of realizes, hey, I'm older, the game is changing, but I'm also going to adapt to the way the game is changing, but still implement what I bring to the system. So it's not just, let the guys go out and have fun. He makes sure there's a structure. He makes sure everyone's disciplined with everything they do. That's why I don't know if people know this, but it's rare that you see on a lot of these trick plays where it's like a false start. It's very rare almost because of the discipline that they run these plays over and over and over again. So everybody's on the same accord. They know what they're doing. And I just think that's a testament to what Andy Reid has become and what he continues to evolve to be. And, I think the comment about whether or not he was going to continue coaching, I think as long as they have this core together, as long as Kelce's there, Mahomes is healthy, everyone's there, he's going to want to stick around as long as he can.
I mean, you talk about the offensive mastermind of Andy Reid, the greatest quarterback in the league, maybe even all time, an extremely disciplined team. Ed, what's the weakness? What is the biggest weakness on this Chiefs roster? Please give us something.
You know what? A lot of times, in past years, they would always try to throw at the defense. They always say the defense is probably the weaker part, but the defense has stepped up so much. We saw last year a lot of big plays were made by the defense. In the Super Bowl, Nick Bolton, the big play he made, and even the season that he had, he deserved to be a Pro Bowler, but he was snubbed. He's one of the better linebackers. So, they always try to pick at that. Last year was also special teams. There was some issues in terms of the return game. They kind of figured that out. They added Richie James in free agency, who's going to probably do a lot of kick returning. You're not putting a guy like Sky Moore, who's was never a punt returner in college, and they had him doing that. So there was an awkwardness there. You're going to see him more in the pass game. And I know you're saying find a weakness. I'm just pointing out some of the things that work for at that time. You look at that, the secondary's young, so these are things that people like to pick on if you want to say what is the problem with the Chiefs. But every time they get these criticisms, and I want to go back to what Nick Bolton said during OTAs, I feel like, he said he feels like they don't get enough respect. that teams overlook the defense. They always say, oh, just keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands and you should be fine. But the defense has a chip on his shoulder. So right now we're going to say, we're going to say the defense, because compared to the offense, they're always going to say the defense. That's the only reason why. But I don't think the defense is a bad unit if we're being fair.
Yeah, and I mean, look, like I thought that the first Chiefs Super Bowl run, it reminded me a lot of the Colts Super Bowl run, where with that, like it's like the team, you had this elite quarterback, and then in 2006, and then Bob Sanders and that crew, like Dwight Freeney and all those guys, they kind of like they had the talent there, but they just felt like they always give a bunch of points, and they coalesce down the stretch, and that seems to be something that this Chiefs defense does a lot. Is like it gets hot at the right time, and it's like it's got to be helpful to know that, like, all right, if we get hot at all, like we're getting the ball to Patty, like, or Pat, excuse me. I forgot his mom will tweet you if you call him something other than Patrick or Pat. Sky Moore, you mentioned, I think really interesting. People sort of aren't aware of this, but like, because you always think, oh, Andy Reid, he drafts a wide receiver, the guy's going to blow up, because they do really well. But they almost never do well the rookie season in the Andy Reid system. And that's probably learning the intricacies of it all, getting on the same page as the quarterback. I think that Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin, his first year, I think there's only two guys with over 750 receiving yards as a rookie for Andy Reid. Have you seen anything from Sky Moore that like might lead us to believe that he could be in for a breakout second season?
Yeah, I do believe Sky Moore is going to have a better season. A lot of stuff that you saw during his rookie year, obviously with high expectations, people were expecting him to just put up big numbers right away, especially with the departure of Tyreek Hill last year. But the way the offense is set up, they run through so many different receivers. You have a lot of veterans, you have a lot of young players, and they're not really plugged into just your wide receiver one, your wide receiver two. It's more like you're in this package, you're in that package. For him, it was just finding a way to get into a consistent package in the offense. And I think towards the end of last year, and you even saw him make some plays in the Super Bowl, he started to figure it out. He started to find his way to really, affect the offense, affect the way that Mahomes looks at him in terms of like certain, maybe his third down plays, maybe his second down. It's always a progression with Andy Reid. He doesn't like to just throw the rookies out there and let them figure it out. You saw they had Juju Smith-Schuster for a season because you want to have a veteran presence right away at the top of that wide receiver depth chart. Without Juju here, and Kadarius Toney is going to be a guy who's going to be expected to do big things as well. I do see Toney. I do see Moore getting a lot more opportunities than you may have seen last year. It's just the way Andy Reid kind of has the system set up. He's already made a mention to it all the way back in the combine that he's really focused on Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney playing bigger roles this season.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about Kadarius Toney. Been in the news a little bit recently, not all positive. Curious to get your take on that. You're watching Pick Six. We'll be right back. All right, Ed, Kadarius Toney, Giants fans are not very happy with him right now. Maybe his Twitter or something was hacked. We don't know. We don't have to necessarily get into that. But how do you think that this year is going to go for Toney having a full offseason in the Chiefs system?
Well, I do think he'll be very busy. He won't be near his phone as often. He's going to be a guy that they're going to rely on big time. They see him almost in that kind of Tyreek Hill type of range. He's very shifty, very fast. He's one of those guys, once he gets the ball, it's hard to catch him. It's hard to really keep track of him. His biggest issue that he's had early in his career has been injuries. If the guy is healthy, he's their number one receiver out there. And now giving him a full training camp under Andy Reid's system, learning that discipline and learning how to play with Mahomes on a regular basis, you're going to see a lot more play calls than you saw, leading into the Super Bowl and the actual game, because this is a guy that is dynamic. He makes people miss, and he could be a reliable option, whether he's, wide receiver one, which a lot of people are expecting, or two. He's going to be a guy that's going to be featured heavily in the offense this year.
Yeah, he's just got to learn to put the phone down, and then I think he's going to.
Yeah. Also, fine. Didn't he have? I'm not imagining this. Didn't he like flick off the big? He's like gave the middle finger to the Big Apple when he got the Super Bowl ring too. It's like, hey, dude, they traded you to the Chiefs. Like you won a Super Bowl.
Not so bad.
Yeah,
not so bad.
It's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, like just. Yeah, it's like if CBS was like, you're moving to Honolulu. I'm not gonna be like, how dare you? Like I'll no cover for football in Hawaii. Looking at you mentioned the offensive line. Do you think it's actually, I tell you what, I'm gonna go to a question about the division, because I think from a betting perspective. Last year, the Chiefs were my favorite bet on like preseason bet in the NFL, plus 160 to win the AFC West. In hindsight, you say it out loud, and it's like,
ridiculous.
how was that real? Was that like what were people thinking? And it was just a doubt. It was just like doubting the Chiefs. It was doubting the Chiefs because of the Tyreek Hill thing and because of all the moves made by with Devontae Adams, with all the AFC West made all those moves. This year they're minus 160. That's a lot different, obviously, like a 320-cent swing. I still think it's short. Like this team had a chip on their shoulder last year, and they won the Super Bowl, and they have Patrick Mahomes, and the division is good, but we don't know if Russ is going to work out. There's lots of things. Is minus 160 to win the division a reasonable bet? Because I feel like they're going to win the division again. They're just 12 plus wins every year.
I mean, it's interesting because I feel like, yes, they are going to win a division. They've won it every year since 2016. So it's basically been the Kansas City Chiefs West.
Yeah.
And it's just when you look at the other teams and the goal has been in the AFC West, especially when the Chiefs talk about it, they've been building just to beat Mahomes, just to beat Andy Reid. That's what every team has been doing. Have the Raiders gotten better? This is something that we always look at. Have the Raiders gotten better? Will the Broncos be better with a new head coach? Will Sean Payton be able to figure out the Russell Wilson situation? It's the Chargers are still, that team that's kind of, they're there, but they're not really there. It's always these type of questions. And, I just can't see a team really breaking through. The Chiefs kind of just have all their numbers and, just them going into Arrowhead, they've all struggled. That number could definitely be even more in the favor of the Chiefs. It's very, very, they're being nice. And I understand that a lot of people want to see what's going to happen in Denver. I think that's the big key.
I would agree with that. I will say too, Chiefs win total 11.5, tied for the highest win total of any team. Now they've had at least 12 wins in multiple years. So that seems like a lock for them to have the best regular season record is at plus 380. I assume that you're going to take the over on their win total, but would you maybe sprinkle a little bit on best regular season record?
Yeah, you know what? I could see them getting the best regular season record. Obviously, I'm taking over on that. Just because you look at the landscape of the NFL, you look at what the Eagles were last year and what they possibly could be this year. The Eagles lost some pieces that I feel like a lot of people are not talking about. That was the only other team that you really said, okay, they could be there. The Bills are still a solid team, but do they have enough? You obviously look at what the Jets have done in the AFC East. I feel like they'll knock off a couple of wins from some of those teams. So it's that. Those are the reasons why I'm kind of looking at it. Then you look at the Chiefs' schedule. You have the marquee matchups. You have the Eagles matchup. I still think that opening night matchup is very interesting. It's the Lions. The Lions are a very hungry team, and they've only looked like they've gotten better. So I think that's going to be a fun matchup for opening night, for ring night, basically.
All right, I got a funky. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying the spiral that will happen if somehow Jared Goff beats Patrick Mahomes. Now, I don't think it has anything. It won't impact the season, but I could just see the media just completely spazzing out if that were to happen in Week 1.
Well, what's crazy too is like remember 2018 that 54-51 game that Goff beat Mahomes was it 2018 was his first year, and it was like the future of football is here, and now it's like Week 1. It's like Mahomes is the future of football, but like Jared Goff's on the Lions and is coming to town. Katie does Moxie Bets as another fantastic podcast that she hosts, and I joined her, and I didn't find out about this bet through the great work that they did prepping for that show. Wow. And there's a Mahomes, Burrow, Allen versus the field bet on Caesars. So Mahomes, you get Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Any one of those three win the MVP, you win the award. They're plus 190. The field is minus 240. I know that's kind of like a tricky one, little curveball, but I think it was such a good. I didn't know it was out there. It's such a good one that we pulled from Moxie Bets. I thought it was worth discussing here. I think we both kind of lean towards like the Mahomes thing, just because. I mean, those three are like the big three.
They are definitely a big three, and obviously Mahomes. Wouldn't be interesting to win. It wouldn't be a surprise to go back to back.
Nah.
Just with the way that offense is set up, they still have all their weapons. They got guys that are willing to prove themselves, especially a wide receiver that want to prove that they belong in this league. I know you brought Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. They want to prove something big time. So, and I kind of just remember back to around this time last year when everyone was saying Mahomes is going to fall off because he lost Tyreek Hill. The guy had a record-breaking season, passing the ball. So it's still, it's these things that, as you saw from the quarterback, he's very intense. He loves these type of challenges, and I honestly will take Mahomes going back to back.
I also think Mahomes is the rare guy. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers qualifies. Voters won't get voter fatigue. They're like, nah, it's Mahomes. Like, we don't mind voting for him.
No, I don't see voter fatigue. He always brings something every year. I don't think he's since 2018, since he's been the everyday starter. Has there been a time when you're like, okay, this is a Mahomes game where he's kind of boring. He's probably not playing as well. Even in his real bad games, he looks good.
Yeah.
So it's just something about him that he just knows how to play the game, how to stay up for every game. So, yeah, like I said, Mahomes is the guy going into this year.
Well, Ed, before we let you get out of here, there's one guy that we haven't discussed today, and that's Travis Kelce. I mean, the best tight end in the league, absolute threat on the goal line, cannot be stopped. We look at some of his futures props, his season props. So for receiving yards, he's over 1,000, 1,500. Receiving touchdowns, 9.5. I kind of like that over for receiving touchdowns because, again, this guy can't be stopped. He had multiple games last year with 3 touchdowns. But how would you look into betting Travis Kelce coming into the season?
Definitely over. Like, the guy, I look at him and I just see him even improving even more from what he did this past season. You got to look at what they have on offense. And I know everyone focuses on the wide receivers and what they can do. A lot of them are unknown. The tight end room is very talented. Noah Gray, Jody Fortson, when those guys are healthy, they make life so much easier that they have these sets that Andy Reid will run where he'll have all 3 of them out there at the same time. And you're going to have to cover one of them. And Kelce obviously is going to get a lot of attention, but he utilizes that as well to help get himself open. We saw this in a game last year against the Tampa Bay Bucks where all 3 scored touchdowns. All 3 tight ends got into the end zone. And I spoke to Kelce about it, and he said this is just what the room does and just the way the offense is set up. He said it makes my life easier because you got these guys that are great pass catchers. They can block as well, and they don't get nearly enough talk when you talk about the team in general. Yeah. So just even bringing that up, I just feel like it's tough to really get a focus on Kelce because even if you take the tight ends out of the equation, he's hard to cover on the field. You don't know where he's going. It goes back to him and Mahomes just having their own thing and breakdown plays, improvising. A lot of those, when you see them get open, I know those are improvised plays. Sometimes they just say, okay, just go. And they make it happen. Once again, go all in if you have to on Kelce.
I mean, sold. I was already thinking of it, definitely sold on this. Ed, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to learn more about the Chiefs, make sure you go ahead and give him a follow. All of his articles on USA Today and ChiefsWire.com. Stay tuned for more from our All 32 series with daily drops in your podcast feed and on YouTube. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching this video now. Ed, again, thank you so much. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ed. Great stuff, man.
Okay, thank you.